So we are waiting for that moment where our guest speaker is here. If I can request Sister Anu to highlight her or spotlight, sorry. Yes, thank you, Sister Sarah. And before I pass it on to you, I'll just introduce you to the audience because you're joining us for the first time. But many people know you also through the Sanjeevani series, I'm sure. So Sister Sarah Fitzgerald, who is originally from Cambridge, UK, is a trained interior designer. And this interior designer, I must say now, after being into spirituality, she really does the interior design, which is the truth of life. She has worked at the Science Museum, as well as at a number of design consultancies in London. And she became interested in spirituality in 2009, when she took up language teaching in Southeast Asia. And then I think incidentally, she picked up or discovered Raj Yoga with the Brahma Kumaris while being in that Southeast Asia and Cambodia. And since then, she's returned back to Cambridge to continue her career in teaching, and more importantly, to deepen her understanding of the real interior design. And as always, a small poem. Sister Sarah shall today speak on how to have this delicate balance so that we don't fall out and have spiritual imbalance. So let's be situated in the soul conscience stance so that our voice indeed has that parlance, which helps us to harmonize the sanskar dance with good wishes for everyone and no reactance, and passing this energy to all of acceptance, which we have all got in life as a beautiful chance. And that is indeed God's gift and not by chance, which reflects on everyone's face who practices meditation as the divine radiance. So with this, you can see again, her face is fully radiant and she's all set. I mean, let me tell you a little bit of secret here. She's really prepared a lot, and I would really ask you all to take maximum benefit. She's also wanting you all to interact in the chat box with all sorts of questions which you have about this. And please fully respond to whatever she's asking, because she wants you all to respond. And over to you. Thank you so much for joining.
Om Shanti, thank you. So nice to be in this group. I feel this session is very balanced. Feels very loving and going into the depth and hearing from everyone. So I'm enjoying this is my first time participating on this program. And also to meet Manoj in Mumbai, first time in February. And connected with Sister Anu also. So it's nice, this poem, because I think lots of us who come into spirituality notice that more creativity comes up, and that's quite, I think, a sign of balance. The joy that comes from poems is satisfying both sides of the brain. So I'd like to share my experiences and thoughts, and I hope they inspire you. So I'm just going to share another device. Playful image. But I would like to start with this continuation that balance and equanimity are an art. I think the word art brings joy for me and beauty. And so in different ways to see how this could be a way to explore the subject. So in natural art, if we seeing the picture on the left, there's Starry Night, it's called. So the composition is very balanced, the type of elements that are used and the expression. And so that's quite interesting. So it takes skill to maintain harmony in any picture. And there's often a balance of calmness and complexity. So it's to take on this, as Ken was saying, what are the meanings of the word balance? It's like two things, isn't it? Two things. And equanimity is approaching that with an equal mind. So art maybe helps us to experience that in a way that appears very beautiful. And architecture as well, Sydney Opera House shown there, a very beautiful example of harmony with the environment, but also some nice contrasts, and that creates a kind of a certain beauty. And then the photography at the top about composition. Also, we have examples in sport. So that's a continuous balance between the mind and the body, the physical skill and the mental ability. That has to be sensitive for the sports person to constantly adjust and also know how much to push. So music is an interesting one where it's kind of exhibiting these qualities. And another aspect is like a expansion music, especially classical music, that is held together by the essence. The balance of the essence is like the theme, the thing which repeats many times. And then it goes back and it gets into expansion, but it comes back into this same few notes. And so it's very satisfying to listen to it because there's two things playing together the whole time, going away from the center and back, but like that mandala. And the sensitivity between the sound and the silence. And in some music, it's the sensitivity of emotions and while maintaining control, like giving enough of the human experience, but not so much that it becomes overwhelming with the emotions. So in some kinds of music. And so the beauty comes from the art of keeping the balance with all of that. As feel free to share if there are anything, ideas that come up which may be inspired, examples of beauty in art, sport, or music. But another area is, well, obvious in some performance. And also it makes you realize a certain joy in life, that the possibility that we can be showing what the human is capable of. It's quite fun to watch. But nature is another example of balance. So what we are seeing is relationships in like especially diverse ecosystem is constantly maintaining a complex of processes, interactions. I remember when I was in Southeast Asia, I visited Borneo, and it was Malaysian Borneo in the jungle. And this experience of being in an environment which was perfect in its balance, everything was had a relationship as if with everything else. So it'd be interesting if you've had those experiences, that nature shows what the possibilities are. It's a symbiotic relationships. And often nature, something gets balanced in us also, so we respond. I love the picture of the tree, and plants always trying to rebalance themselves. Sometimes their growth means they go one direction, and the fact that with the tree, it has the yin and the yang. So you've got the coming out with its full potential, but it's the time when it has to come back into itself and energy goes into the roots. And it weathers the storm because everything has been invested underground and the leaves are not on the tree, so it becomes more resilient. I think it's a very beautiful invitation for us, for introversion. And you can't see the roots, but if you don't have them, there is no strength in the manifest. So sometimes nature is giving us clues as to what it is to be balanced, and that this is quite often seen. But we are also made to be balanced, and here's an artistic interpretation. The two sides of the brain, and in a way it's a simplistic idea, but it does show that we are like two personalities in one, and one is often associated with the more artistic, one is more associated with the science, but they work together. But to kind of give a breakdown, the left side is more analytical, and it's usually more narrow, very good at like micro tasks associated with language and science and maths. And it's dealing with like one thing after another in sequence. And on the other side, it's totally different way of working. Right brain, it's getting the essence, as if grasping very quickly what is the overview. Usually holistic thought, ideas come all at once, they're not worked out, it's just coming in the mind suddenly. Intuition comes here, and synthesis. And in a way, you could say it's happening in parallel to everything else. It's like the broad view that's happening in the back of the mind, awareness that's happening in parallel to this conversation. We're also aware of other things. Is it clear so far? Anything to ask or share or add? Nice to think we're made to be balanced. It's a good start.
Usually our participants are very silent and they are very good students. They want to listen to many things. So you can carry on. I mean, if they want to interact, you all can please put up in the chat box. Yeah. Charlotte is saying it's good for now. Thank you.
Maybe to give an example, so for a bird, to give an example of what the balance might look like, the bird is distinguishing between a small pebble and a seed. And so that is requiring a very narrow focus for the brain of the bird. At the same time, they have to keep a constant surveillance of any predators. And so it's very important that the bird is able to do those two things. And so that may be an example of different operation system in the brain. And we are the same. But yes, someone is asking essence and expansion. Is it to do with the right and the left? And absolutely. Left is dealing with expansion. So the scientist who likes to go into the details of the molecules and the structure and all the atoms, and which is needed, but also pulling back what is the overview, and the right brain is maybe more the essence, the overview of the subject, the context of the research paper in the broader academic world, for example. But when are we balanced? Zenim is saying, how can the right brain help a broken left brain? It reminds me of the joke, oh my God, now I know what's wrong with the brain. In the left, there is nothing right, and in the right, there's nothing left. It's the joke. I don't know how it translates. So it seems hopeful so far, and we're balanced. When would you say we're balanced? We have, when we play, someone has written, yeah, exactly. And there's such energy in play. There was a campaign to put the L back into pay and make it play or something. So if we were to have the same energy, we put so much effort in playing, but we feel so light. And it's a really good example of when we are balanced. And so this is a beautiful understanding for life, which we can explore a bit later. So the left brain is so clear that the aim is to win and wants to achieve more and go for higher goals, follows the rules, wants to know the rules, follows them, goes for it, works hard, uses skills, and it's quite serious in that way. It's like dedicated. But on the other side, totally different side of the brain, you accept victory, defeat. It's a game. So it knows more than the game, because that's how you remained light. It's just a game, and you still love others. It's like a joy is still there, and it's not serious. It's like the opposite. So in the same time, it's serious as well as not serious. This is an interesting balance we can kind of hold in play, and so maybe we can use and learn in life. How do you feel when you play? I suppose this joyful, I think it's energizing usually. But it's not always like that, is it? When sometimes we see if it appears serious, that's when we lose the right brain side, like the penalty shootout type of scene, that actually can be quite crippling for the sports person. Because, and I never forget watching the tennis match final, I don't know if it was about 20 years ago, Goran Ivanovic, his name hard to pronounce, and he couldn't serve. That was his strength, was his amazing serve, but he couldn't even perform because in that moment in the final, it was too serious. And so we just need to be aware, or sports people realize how much psychology, how to keep themselves balanced. And are we balanced? So that, doing this, reflecting on this and realizing how subtle it is, and it's not so easy. And in life, we see generally, perhaps technology, how absorbing is it? It's quite like taking the time and disproportionate. Even my thoughts, who's messaged me, we can be thrown very easily off balance. The type of tendencies we might see in that might throw us off balance.
ये भी चाहिए भाई हाँ
Someone is managing the home life balance. It's good. Getting kids involved. And yeah, I think addiction's interesting because there's many levels. We've got the obvious addictions, but there are subtle addictions, aren't there, to just into doing things like the discussion earlier, having time, like we quite could be addicted to work even, and that's when we lose our balance. Sedentary lifestyle, it's not helping us to physical, mental level. So how can we return to our natural balance and equanimity? And this has already been answered in many various ways. Here, exploring, taking the simple step-by-step ideas. A couple of weeks ago, I was at this place, so some of you may recognize it, the Global Retreat Centre in Oxford. And when you're visiting somewhere, it's such a joy because you've got such a clean, clear relationship. You're there for like 3 days, 4 days. And so you have this feeling that every moment is a gift, especially at a beautiful place. But anywhere, it's like foreign place, you're fully there, you're involved, you might be washing up also, but you're so light. And so your mind is not getting caught up with the expectations that we might have in our own place, or the kind of familiarity. Your mind is very fresh and you basically know you can't take anything with you. So the equanimity with everything that you find, you're meeting it with appreciation. So you're keeping that naturally in your system. So the energy of guest is an area of interest. And why we're mentioning it is because we are regaining our balance with spirituality to remind ourselves that we are not from here. And it's obvious, but to experience it is another story. Because if you stay in a house for 3 days, it's one thing, but if you stay for 30 years, you still have an exit, but you get awfully familiar with it. And also that feeling of exit is not always alive. So same here. And here we're drawing the self as a non-physical, represented as a star. So the being and the human. The human is part of the physical world, the physical body. And the being is just guest in the body, guest in the world, totally separate. And that is the balance, isn't it? Two things, whether we have a equanimous mind. So this is mostly known, but nice to play with. This is the soul consciousness, to be the guest in the world. We know we can't own anything in the world, and then we have the attitude, which is stable. We can't lose it. And it's such a fresh feeling. Then there's a possibility of security, and you're connected to what is timeless beyond this constantly changing planet. And the bliss, the contentment that is not from dependencies on anything out there. So these are the points you could literally just work with one of those and it connects to all the others. So this creates an orientation, maybe to work from. And I included this slide. Sometimes people say, how can I'm busy at work, I'm fully involved, and I find it difficult to meditate. So what's the balance? You know, we associate meditation with sitting somewhere and in a particular place? But say this example, someone who's living in Spain, Zaragoza, she comes to Cambridge for 3 months to learn English. And so for those 3 months, she is very involved in the lessons, very involved with the grammar and meeting people. So she's present in Cambridge, but she never forgets that she's from Spain, she's Spanish, with her family and her home. That's in the background. But it's not like she may be having it merged. She's in the middle of a lesson. She might not be emerged thinking about Spain, but as soon as the lesson finishes, she's probably going to go on her phone and probably get onto the WhatsApp and get connected again. So in that way, she's very balanced. She's not lost and thinks that Cambridge is where she's from. So this is also showing the brain balance. It's like back of the mind, backdrop is she's from Spain, she has her family and her friends. That's very clear. But at the same time, she's involved. Left brain is analyzing the grammar. And so this awareness, we want to awaken that the same way we have a home, it's timeless, we're all connected, all are part of that same family beyond, and we're visiting here. And in a moment, we can remember and have that fully emerged, and we get connected. It's like we got connected with the WhatsApp. We get connected. And that way we will maintain a beautiful balance. We can be here, but we can also connect to where we are from. So this balance is really to identify that we are separate from the performance. So in this case, we like the example in Cambridge, we use it all the time. We've got Sean Connery, who's the actor, and James Bond. So they're two separate things. And Sean Connery is not James Bond is not an extension of Sean Connery. They're totally different. And that it would be unhelpful for Sean Connery to think he is James Bond. So we're clear. And so in the same way, when we start to grasp in those moments this clean difference, and how refreshing to be so free from the slightest identification with the performance, in this case, the soul from the performance of Sarah, that's part of this theatre of life. And Sarah is going to have an end, has a storyline, and it's almost, I can say, like a script. But the actor is associated with, in this case, Sarah, and then has a journey. And then there's a chance of being in equanimity, isn't there? Because something happens to Sarah when this training of this detachment, freedom from the role is there. We have the option to be objective, sometimes misunderstood as passive. It's not passive, but it's extremely active, but it's coming with strength of detachment. You might or might not say something, but it's never from defensiveness. So you can play the part fully, which may be, so as a teacher, you might have to give a warning to a student, but it's not with anger inside. You're kind of able to keep the feelings of love whilst playing the role. These practices, they give such a glimpse how equanimity can be possible when the world is a stage, that everyone has a part, a huge variety, but the equanimity is because the love is not based on the performance on that variety stage. It's an interesting question. How would you know when you are balanced? Is it when you see more than others can see? I think maybe as we continue, it might get easier because it's becoming quite subtle. And if we're looking at this image, if we're looking for the drama to confirm, sometimes we get trapped in that because it comes back. The ego wants to project success on the role constantly. His mission is to be out of balance because his mission is about promoting character or something around the character. But if we are experiencing fullness, not based on the performance, then we at least know that the material inside is going to come from a place of true security, and then we can maintain our stability. That's the feeling. Happy and content from beyond. Yes. And someone's asking, how can I come out of my role in real life? Or when do I come? We're constantly in our role. It's like when you're watching a theatre performance, they are in their role, aren't they? And so just imagine right now we're watching a theatre show or you're watching a film. They are in their role, but they don't think they are the role, right? They don't have to think they are the role to play it. And when that happens, if it does, they have to take a break from acting, actually. Imagine if Sean Connery thinks he saved 50 people and got the girl, if he thought that he did it, it wouldn't help, would it? He couldn't actually play his part. It's easy to say these words, and I know what we're saying is it's a homework, but it gives you an insight that detached observer is very much a part of being an actor. You're looking, you don't need to be in the center all the time, and you can watch and be a little bit stepped back and watch your own performance with a lightness. So, two realities. This is where the brain is able to handle that we are coming to play a part. There are all the details, the things that we need to do. The left brain likes that, but the right brain knows its play. And here, nothing is serious. If we really explore this, and that this could be a lovely week-long workshop, I think, to really imbibe nothing is serious. If we're really saying that we are guests, and as we come, so we leave, then we're safe. The soul is safe. And that is needed, that deep security, familiarizing. We just want to dwell on, enjoy that. And creating more seconds and minutes to what are the nuances of that experience. And nothing, no one can change your primary experience. Maybe to explain, like, this stage doesn't promise peace. The stage doesn't promise stillness. The stage doesn't promise silence. Peace, silence, stillness are not stable here. Moments you get, it might be nice, but next second. But we know those things. We long for those things sometimes. And this is what we experience in the primary world. We get connected when we take that moment of no time to come above. If we shrink the importance of this physical world and call it a story, it creates a balance, because most of our thoughts are running in a loop about the stage. We're 24/7 trying to fix it or change it. Sometimes even in the corner we may be a spiritual effort making, but it can still be continuing. And so to shrink it in a way, giving permission to see it as very small, it helps our right brain to let go and really enjoy that first primary world. And this is without movement, timeless and changeless. So there's a joy that gets activated. Practical application, what does it look like? Some of these ideas. So I thought we would start with self-respect. There's many areas. So we get imbalanced, and sometimes the question is like, is it self-respect or is it ego? Like how do we know? So if we take this idea that there's that home in that region above, and then there's this box, which is the physical world. And if I'm taking my sense of self-worth from the things that I have, which is shown in the cartoon, but it can be the job. Like I feel the job makes me feel I have some worth, I've become somebody. Then it's based on something limited. We can see in ourselves that we get it can lead to arrogance. It might not look like it at first, but it can grow if not seen. But what happens is it has an effect where we flip into the other side, where we get low self-esteem and no confidence. And it's funny because they're two sides of the same coin. I'll give an example. When I'm language teaching, some students have this complex where they begin and they think, I know it already. They really have a false pride about the language. And it's so hard to teach, even if they're there, they cannot hear it. So you have to somehow find a way that they can hear something. Then they realize they don't know it, and they go from up here to down there, and both are hopeless for learning. So it's high false pride into I can't do anything, I'm hopeless. So this is like two sides of the same coin that we get impressed or depressed, so imbalanced. The balance, this idea that we are inherently great, all are great, and that self-respect comes from beyond this world of change, that we ourselves are guests and travelers. It's an interesting, brings greatness in the humility, but in the face of greatness. That they're quiet confidence, but you're also able to respond. So nice to explore this. So invitation, maybe checking the balance. What does it feel like to be in this soul-based honor, the self-respect of the soul? And how could it contribute to greater equanimity while playing a role in the drama? Great to hear if you would like to share any thoughts for a few moments. Like this word honor somehow, and I think in Hindi there's a nice word for honor, and it feels blissful to be in soul-based honor. Yeah. Light about existence, dignified and graceful. And it's another area is am I more aware of my weaknesses than my treasures? It's like a checking. Magical. When we are playing the role in self-consciousness, we are detached. And latter has a hand raised. Yeah. Hello.
Hello. I was thinking that when we go into the soul-based honor, the one thing that interests is that I realize that I'm playing a role, and every other soul around me is also playing their role. So that the first thing that comes is this instantly, and then I realize that there is not all that I can control. I can only control my role, maybe somewhere, but not everybody's. Thank you.
It's helpful, just the idea of it being a drama. It's like maybe the answer to all of it. Yeah, just to keep balance with the attitude. Yeah, it's very nice. some reflections here. Self-respect is not tied to the temporary and unpredictable world. Like we just don't know, this next second the electricity can go and the whole thing crashes. So if the self-respect is not tied to it, it's so deep and stable. There's a natural and authentic equanimity in praise and defamation. If we are having self-respect from this soul conscious, these moments. But what I think is helpful, because we're talking about something that takes such refinement and practice, but when we glimpse it, that contrast is so precious, because then it's clear to see when we're off balance. Even dwelling on what someone said, like little criticism, mind goes back. It's a little signal, isn't it, that I was taken off balance. Some little noticing those little thoughts, we get a clue. It's like seeing what's underneath the iceberg. You get a ton of insight what's going on. But when we notice it, we're so much more free to be sensitive to that. The other area is a big one in relationships. So the three areas, like apathy is when, example, if someone falls in a hole and you go, oh, drama or karma or something, and it's like there's no feeling. So that's imbalanced, right? It's like and sometimes detachment is misunderstood as apathy or coolness, and it can be done, or it could even be the sort of renunciate misunderstanding that you move away from something or someone. But it's a response, because the sympathy is the other side, where you jump in the hole with them, and it's like, oh, I feel what you're feeling. Oh, it's so bad. But actually you're in the hole, you jumped, and someone has to help you both. So it's like one sympathy perhaps leads to apathy, like I can't take this anymore. So you have an apathetic response. So sympathy is misunderstood as love sometimes, that you have to feel what someone else is feeling. And this is what Ken was talking about. And apathy misunderstood as detachment. But it's not truly detached, because mine experience, I moved continent because of attachment, thinking I was free, but it was a reaction. I want to get away from this my life. So what's the balance? And one way of the word would be empathy. So you are practical, say, and it's already been shared, you stay stable and you help someone come out of the hole. And that is possible if you're supported from beyond. And you know their greatness from beyond. This example of someone who was in a really bad mood, and it was directed at me also, but just these seconds to hold the high vision of someone else, their greatness, not based upon that mood, which were like those clouds coming, the emotions, but really takes focus, but to really enjoy and experience the one behind that temporary emotion cloud. And often it's just your silence. You don't have to, people just want to be respected. And that means really to be seen, isn't it? To be seen. And sometimes if we reinforce the emotional state of others, it's like trapping them in that state, out of balance. So could we consider entering into interactions from stability and security from beyond? And how would it feel? Like that, maybe one relationship which often makes me feel off balance. What might be the resistance, and how could it be overcome? my close family member, I used to feel very emotional because I was feeling I was dependent on their emotional state, and you think you're helping, but you're just, so the help that I feel I've been given is to give space, that they know why they're doing what they're doing. It's not to make, we get so caught up in relationships and each other's needs. So it's very interesting that the detached and loving is creating a balanced approach. And some thoughts that came up, that the conscious soul knows the greatness of others, and that like mercy is this, it's like celebrating the others in a way. And unity, love, and belonging is taken care of already if we are feeling that space from beyond. And that creates inner stability. We're not begging for it here. We might not find it here, but we know that this is everyone's reference point, and the more we're experiencing it, we're helping them to reunite with that stability. And I think this is the biggest gift, where if we're equanimous, then it's a gift to others. It connects them to that reality more easily. And someone's written, I'm only here for a limited time to play a role. Let me play it well. Let others play their role. Yeah, shine the light, whatever the situation. Maybe last one is actions. And in the Gita was mentioned earlier that I like the expression, so coming into actions is a pleasure desired. So it's like compulsion or excitement. And so speaking to students, like so many, they switch their phone on first thing in the morning, and it's like straight into the pleasure of messages. And but we get like addicted to compulsion into doing. So that's one. And then we go in the opposite, hated compulsion. So it like maybe burnout, but it began like an apathy. And also perhaps we have preferences when we're in this kind of imbalance. Certain things we want to do, certain things we don't. So what would the balance be? And then the act of sacred duty is so beautiful. So act with sacred duty done without a pleasure desired or a hated compulsion. So it's like for the one who is full in self-respect, it's all for the higher purpose or the greater good. And you are here in the first place to give. You have everything in those moments. This is for the invisible guest that feels like this. This is a gift. And as a guest, you're happy to do the washing up. Someone says, can you clean the car? Yeah, that's fun. And it's fun to play with water. So as a guest and a visitor, things get divinized. So the higher energy. Yes, someone's written, when there's ego, there is anxiety, suffering, and arrogance. In soul consciousness, there is peace. So how does coming into actions from beyond help maintain balance, inner balance? What would help me check the quality of my actions through the day? Like the karma in the yoga, the yoga in the karma, isn't it? That's often mentioned in this philosophy. It said have a balance between karma and yoga. And it sounds like I should do 50% this, 50%, but it's actually meant at the same time. So when we have the balance of the brain, then you, in the world, not of the world, you are playing the part, but you're not the role. You're doing the actions, but you are experiencing that you're visiting, and you have the backdrop of your home. You have come from somewhere. So your heart is full and clean and free, and things are happening. And Ken was saying about instrument that the hands are doing the work, but the heart is with the one, or the higher, is a friend of the soul. So I think this is the key for me. And this is where I realized how imbalanced I can get. I'm the one that I've learned the most from this. I get so imbalanced because if you're not full before coming into actions, then it's definitely pleasure desired or hated compulsion. There's, so from beyond there is balance between actions. Balance because actions arise from a sustainable inner source of unconditional joy and contentment. Coming from fullness and peace, it's easier to see the contrast of egos and balance. It's a kind of the Rajopradhan, isn't it? It's like the doing, and it when we get the feelings of the refinement, it helps you can sustain what you're doing better, longer, the quality as well. So one final thing I wanted to share is when you see an instrument like a violin, it's so beautiful to see. But when someone plays it, you get connected to the potential of the instrument. It's like someone who's virtuoso playing it with this form of an art. You see what capacity it has for brilliance. And so same with the mind. Mind is like a tool, we're using the mind, but if we're using it from the higher consciousness, what beauty it will, what the feelings that it can give and connect others to as well. If we are really balanced, we are in this world with this consciousness that everything is good, nothing is serious, but we're here to play and we want to play to win, but the balance is there. So this option as a reference point to keep coming back to, that we have this great stage and we want to play the role, but at the same time not to lose this overview. And that's like the art, isn't it? It's nice to do the workshop, but the workshop really starts after the call finishes. Thank you.
So wonderful. We would want you to go on and on, but obviously you have to respect the time. So fantastic. It really looked like a workshop, and people were actually wanting to know whether you could share the slides, something like that. Yeah, okay. So maybe you can email it to me and then we send them the review material. So we'll send them again as well with that. Thank you so much. And I don't think we have time for questions because, and good, you all were interactive with each other. And also, I'll just quickly request Sister Anu to propose the vote of thanks. And also, yeah, Sister Denise has shared the life balance chart, which I think Sister Anu was wanting her to share. So please, you all can, it's done right now in the last minute. You all can download that. Over to you, Sister Anu.
Thank you, Manoj brother. And we'll share the file that Sister Denise has shared as well. Oops. And yes, thank you so much, Sister Sarah. That was, I would say, brilliant. It's not to raise your praise and ego, but you brought us into such deep attention to that deeper balance, in inner balance. And I think so many thoughts are going on in my mind. I would like to see it again, like all others, capture it. But I love the essence that soul is a guest in this body. And you give such beautiful example that actor who is playing James Bond, if he thinks he has that capacity, extraordinary capacity, he saved the 50 people while going home, it won't work. So that separation stays in the awareness. But when we come to our role and me who is playing the role, the separation is lost. That was the essence, I think, to bring more and more that one into our awareness is important. I also love to learn the apathy part. I did not think that's where comes the word empathy. That's beautiful. Like sympathy won't work, apathy won't work, but that combined form is the mercy, true understanding, and being there. A lot more, so much more we got today. Thank you so much. On behalf of everybody, it's a big thank you. And we all would be watching this again and again to go into our balance, equanimity. Thank you. That was wonderful. Over to Brother Manu.
Thank you so much. So before we move on into meditation, the closing meditation, so I'll quickly do the announcements. And if you all want to be clicked in the photograph which we take, the digital photograph, so you can please open up your videos as well. So we finish off this equanimity with the silence retreat, which is happening in the next 12 hours. So it's the morning time for India, early, not early, but tomorrow 8:30 morning. And it's for the West Coast, it's late 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And these silence retreats are based on the teachings. They are usually for BK students, Brahma Kumari students, but I mean, the people who are new here can also join in and just see, experience the silence. And, you know, a silence retreat is a good way to help you inculcate the value in a proper way. If still there is something lacking inside, once we sit in silence, it really helps you to absorb what we have really heard so much over the last 2 weeks on equanimity. And finally decide for self what I really need to change in my life to develop equanimity. So you're welcome to join within 12 hours. And we move on to a next very unique value, actually. We'll be having our very dear senior Sudesh Didi, who not only is the European director, she's the European director as well, but also she's the director of Gyan Sarovar now, and also most important, the joint administrative head of the organization. And we will be entering our 90th episode, 10 more to go till 100. It will be on curiosity. And though in Hindi we call it jigyasa, but also there's another word called utsukta. And utsukta is a word very closely related to utsav and utsav, which means a lot of zeal and enthusiasm, so many things. So, because many people feel curiosity is not a value. So the next value after this would be covered on Saturday, 11th May, the week after. And after that, again, as always, we'll do the workshop on the same value. We'll be having Brother Marcelo, who's the national coordinator of Brahma Kumaris at Colombia in the Latin America. So he has been with us before as well, and that will be on 18th of May. And that's our elegant calendar. Thanks to Sister Kosha for always being so creative. We'll be sending this calendar to you as well in the emails, along with these review materials, the PPTs, which we have been sharing with you all so far. These are our YouTube playlists, which you can find out. The first two are the series episodes, both Hindi and English. And the other ones below, second one is the workshop series. Our email addresses are following: valuesforlifeseries@gmail.com and vancouver@ca.brahmakumaris.org. And these are our websites as well. Feel free to share your comments, feedbacks, and anything else which you feel can improvise more on our workshops. With this, I'll stop sharing the screen and over to Sister Anu for the photograph, and then we'll go on in the meditation.
Yeah, so it's photograph time. Let's make this moment memorable with Sister Sarah. Everybody, you can open your video in that balanced, beautiful smile. If one more minute, I'll wait. People slowly open their video if you want to be in the photograph, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Sister Sarah, would it be some drishti or some commentary or whatever suits you?
Commentary will be great.
So for a few moments, this precious energy that's been created by everyone here, we take the mind to the experience of the invisible, the ones behind the images. And the natural balance, natural joy, natural freedom. We take the mind above the theater. Theater is down below. Everything is there, but it is very small. We find ourselves in a world of light. A family of light. Beings of light are all around. Natural, peaceful. All are secure. They're very different from the roles which are down below. And it is with that joy, their security, immortality, they visit and associate with this great performance, like a game.
So thank you once again so much for your time.
Thank you for the wonderful session. Thank you, everyone. See you again. Thank you, Sister Sarah.